So guys, when is Avatar gonna get good again? More so the Avatar franchise, because it has been in the pooper for quite some time. It sucks. It reminds me of an old quote that I go by a lot. That which was lost in the place of efficiency was often essential in the first place. What that means is, let's say you have a microwave, right? And the microwave makes cooking significantly easier, but you forgot how to make fire. So you forgot the basic essential steps. Always go back to the basics. Before I get into the subjects of today's video, I gotta talk about how I feel about Avatar, because that's the most important thing to me about the entire video. So I just got done watching the new Avatar Last Airbender movie, and it has finally convinced me that something fundamental has been lost inside this franchise. Obviously, it has the characters, it has the bending, the animals, the nation, the music, all the recognizable pieces that tell me in my brain this is definitely Avatar, The Last Airbender, or the IP. This is what I see. Avatar Aang, all this stuff. I love this. I want to see more of this. As a matter of fact, big reason I didn't even like Korra was because I really just wanted to see more of Avatar Aang, and thus I thought I was gonna get more Avatar Aang. I don't know why I thought I was gonna get more of that. But that wasn't the problem. Something's wrong. Really wrong. The spirit holding the pieces together of all the pieces I just mentioned feels weaker. It feels like somebody carefully collected everything that people remember about Avatar and forgot to ask why any of it mattered in the first place. Because none of this stuff matters to me. Bending was never cool solely because somebody threw a rock through a building, or because air is being moved, or water was being moved with such flow states, or it was fire on the screen. No, the world was never interesting solely because it had 4 color-coded nations. Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Each one. The original show had a deep philosophy running underneath this comedy, action, and adventure. That's what made Avatar so good. Every ability reflected a culture. Every culture reflected a worldview. Every fight revealed something about the person fighting. Now the franchise appears obsessed with showing us more Avatar while understanding less of Avatar. It's as if I'm watching it be piloted by a puppeteer of some sort. It feels very executive, if I can be so bold to say. The Fire Nation was wildly ruthless, and that's why a lot of their techniques was derived from dragons. They are very authoritative, they're very strong and fierce. The pull of the moon is exactly what the Water Nation was with the pull of the moon. That's why they have the flow state, the flows of the oceans. That's why their movements were more flowy like water. The air nomads were free-loving and peaceful. That's why they were so connected with nature. They're floaty. The Earth Kingdom was isolationist because they are stubborn, and that's just a part of who they are. It mattered so much between each pieces of these nations. That's why it was so palpable. That's why it mattered so much. It reflected in their bending styles too. So before I get into the bendings, I want to talk about the drama that's going on right now. That's what you guys came for. This is Toph Beifong. Toph Beifong is muscular in the new Avatar show, and people are wildly upset that Toph Beifong, as a muscular woman, is not a wild lesbian. She should be a lesbian, despite the fact that she has all these children and has only shown attraction to men. I want to point this out. She could be bisexual, but I really just want to point this out deeply. The drama surrounding Toph supposedly being attracted to men has exposed to me how limited some people's understanding of these characters has become. I think they saw muscles and thought lesbian. That's it. What is the actual logic behind that besides muscular woman equals gay? This is the same stereotypical garbage people claim they want to escape. Buff women can like men. Women can go to the gym and become physically powerful, dress however they want, carry themselves however they want, and still be, you guessed it, attracted to men. Same thing happened with Lean Beef Patty. Not really sure what was going on there. Everybody said, wow, I want her to crush me. She must be a lesbian. Don't really know what's going on there. Everybody has this fantasy of a muscle mommy lesbian. She's a complete character. I mean, turning every physical characteristic into evidence of somebody's sexuality is not progressive or helpful at all. It is phrenology for people who have rainbow flags in their bios. This is weird. I'm not sure what you think you're doing with this logic or mindset, but it's very reductive and it's very stupid to do so to a character who is fully fleshed out for the most part, by the way. Fully fleshed out. I think this limited surface level understanding of characters is in part the fans' fault and the writer's fault. And if you're a part of the LGBTQ, I want you to understand what the goal of the LGBTQ is. It's liberation. It's supposed to be about self-discovery. It's always been so weird to me when people don't understand the point of LGBTQ is self-discovery. It is supposed to give people the freedom to become the truest version of themselves without being shoved into a box by society. We cannot replace the old boxes with newer, more colorful boxes and say, oh, we're liberated now, this is fun. A feminine man does not owe you homosexuality. A masculine woman does not provide you lesbianism. A bisexual person does not owe you the entire dating history of everybody they dated. You gotta date equal parts men and women. I've never seen you with a man. I've never seen you with a woman. A trans person does not owe you a particular personality of being trans. Toph being strong, muscular, loud, and aggressive should not determine who she is allowed to love. People desperately need to grow beyond this shallow obsession with archetypes. It's weird. These aesthetics and stereotypes. Representation means allowing characters to exist as honest as they're supposed to. Do not turn someone's body into a personality test. That's weird to do. Reminds me of people getting mad at gay voice. Hey guys, how's it going? There are straight men that speak like that, by the way. There are straight men that do what is essentially known as gay voice. That's a real thing. There are other issues I want to talk about the LGBTQ, but I'm not gonna get too deep into that because this whole thing where people don't understand that it's a journey of self-introspection and they use the archetypes they see on the internet to further become a stereotype themselves is a bigger issue than I want to address. I want to talk more about Avatar and my complaints about it. For a long time, I assumed the problems with Legend of Korra came from production issues, maybe shortened seasons, network interference, and difficulty storyboarding decisions. Maybe that was going on there. Now, I still believe those things affected the show. Yet with Korra in particular, I am beginning to think there's also fundamentally wrong with the understanding of modern Avatar. The people controlling this universe seem to remember its mythology while forgetting its storytelling language. See, Aaron Ehasz served as a major creative force on the original series as its head writer and co-executive producer, and his absence from later Avatar projects feels increasingly significant. I don't think one guy made all of Avatar, that'd be insane, but I do think he was a big creative driving factor in the original writing team, which seems to be completely gone from the Avatar series. There was a specific combination of writers, artists, martial artists, directors, and musicians, and I think they got removed. The creative chemistry that made the show exactly what it is eventually left, and I feel like they're imitating the finished product without understanding the process that created it. As I stated before, that which was lost in the place of efficiency was often essential in the first place. I'd like to talk about bending forms if I could for a moment. Firebending was fierce, powerful, much like strikes and jabs. You see, their movements reflected their entire culture. That was one of the most beautiful things I loved about a lot of the bending styles, is that the firebenders learn from dragons, and dragons are often the most authoritative figures in fiction, and they go crazy. They stylistically, you can see in my movements right here that the strikes I'm doing are strong, powerful, and fast, much like how Zuko goes. That is why they're imitating the nature of dragons. The airbenders learn from sky bisons, and their movements are floaty. They're so connected with nature. Sky bisons do not eat any meat, so the airbenders do not eat any meat. They're naturally pacifist. They do not wish to disturb the natural forces of the world, and that goes into the free flow state of what they are. You could consider them airheaded, or you could consider them people who deeply understand that things should not be disturbed or destroyed from their natural state. They're very beautiful people. That's why they were so easy to annihilate, because they were not trying to fight. They didn't suspect an ambush, and they stayed in the mountains high above the clouds, free from the terrestrial plane. Trying to get closer and ascend to the heavens is essentially what they were doing with their movements and their fighting styles. For the complete opposite spectrum, hence why it was so hard for Aang to learn, we have earthbenders who are stubborn. They are resilient. They move the earth with them. They are the natural forces of the earth. They are isolationless. They will use the earth as a blockade to make sure they stay within the resolute mindset. They will move through anything and stay resolute. They are an unstoppable force and an immovable object, making friction, and friction creates lava. Hence why in Korra we actually have lava benders that are able to heat up the rock in a way that is fundamental in bending nature. Then finally we have the push and pull of the moon. The moon controls the tides, and waterbenders use this very nature and how they move their flow-like state and how they move their movements. Something beautiful about the way they move themselves and expressions is so amazing about how they understand the world and the way it works. It's lovely. It's cathartic. That's why losing the fish spirit of the moon is so depressing for them, because they don't understand what it means to actually lose something so amazing for their culture. Bending was humanity observing creatures stronger and more naturally connected to the elements than copying their movements onto our fragile bodies. That is where the magic came from. We do not need 20 paragraphs explaining the biological mechanics of somebody shooting fire from their hands. The explanation was deeply spiritual, cultural, and physical all at once. People learned by watching the world around them. The power felt ancient because nobody had completely conquered or scientifically dismantled it. The mystery of that was part of the beauty. That's the same thing Studio Ghibli does with its films. It refuses to explain the magic. Something lovely about Avatar is its refusal to deeply explain the magic, and that was a core part of why it was so powerful to guess and observe in theory craft. That's how you keep a lot of conversation alive, is you allow the fans to let their imaginations grow wild. The martial arts were equally important. The original production used real martial artists as references so that each movement carried the weight, intention, and cultural identity of each specific nation. See, the animations and the animators were not merely just drawing people waving their arms and explosions were happening like in the new Avatar movie. It was beautiful. The stance mattered, the breathing mattered, the placement of the feet mattered. Water flowed, earth stood firm, fire pressed toward, and air escaped through movement. You could sometimes recognize what element a person was using before the element even appeared, just based on the personality. And that's incredible visual storytelling. So the new movie did exactly what Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z did, and let me explain. So Dragon Ball had a large emphasis on martial arts, the specific techniques, multi-form technique, a solar flare, Kamehameha, the great turtle wave. It was awesome to see these techniques and moves learned by Goku. And in Dragon Ball, it was really a martial arts manga. Everything about it was amazing feats of martial arts, journey of self-improvement, growth. Goku was actually learning specific punches and kicks and techniques, and it was awesome. The choreography was absolutely stellar, and I love the choreography of old Dragon Ball. I recommend go watching some old Dragon Ball fights if you don't know what I'm talking about. But then, Dragon Ball Z happened. When Dragon Ball Z happened, everything just became beam struggle, yelling, power clash. There's no true specific choreography in later parts of Dragon Ball Z. Early parts of Dragon Ball Z had really good choreography. One of my favorites is the Piccolo versus Android 17 fight. That was awesome, but it's really just big powers versus big powers. The martial arts aspect is pretty much null and void and gone from this, and it just became, I can blow up the entire solar system with all of my chi. I'm amazing. And it just became a nothing burger at the Buu Saga. It just became nothing. It just became nothing. That's exactly how I felt watching a new Avatar film. I just felt that exact motion and notion watching the new Avatar film. It felt like I was watching what Dragon Ball Z had become. My favorite part of the original Avatar was Uncle Iroh's explanation of each specific bending style in order to teach Zuko how to redirect lightning, because it was the entire philosophy of the original series. He taught Zuko that wisdom should be taken from many places. Studying only the Fire Nation will make him rigid and incomplete. When I say rigid, I don't know, that's not even a word. Lightning redirection came from understanding water bending, allowing energy to enter the body, guiding it through the stomach and release it through the other arm. That technique was character development, world building, martial arts, and philosophy all at once. If you ever want to learn how good the original Avatar was, just watch that scene. Zuko became stronger by learning from another culture. He survived by abandoning the arrogance that his nation possessed. It's beautiful, it's strange, and it's lovely. The original show understood that cultures influence each other's, fighting styles evolve, and personal growth requires humility. Modern Avatar is just modern Dragon Ball Z. That's all I can really say. I'm not trying to have Avatar remain in, when did it come out? 2008? 2008? I think it came out in 2008. I don't want that. I want the world to grow. I want new techniques, new smaller nations ingrained in the central philosophy of the nations and themselves. Older characters, complicated relationships, unfamiliar problems. Growth still requires the roots for it to actually grow. Best way I can describe it is that the new material keeps reaching upward while cutting away everything that once fed it. This franchise is becoming a collection of bending battles, nostalgic appearances, look, recognizable animals. This is Taga. He's an airbender, and there's not any airbenders. He was frozen like Aang. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? You guys like Aang so much, so we just gave you Aang again. You know, that's exactly what it was. Toph is tough. Iroh is wise. Aang feels guilty. Zuko was awkward. I appreciate that a lot, but those characters have to grow as well. Avatar was once a story about spirituality, imperialism, nature, culture, grief, discipline, balance, and children learning who they wanted to become. Now I am watching people argue that Toph's biceps determine her entire sexuality, while the actual soul of the world doesn't exist in there. I don't like that. It's like I'm watching my favorite show get buried alive, and I'm not a fan of that. Anyways, let me know what you think. Thanks so much for checking out my little bit of a rant. Sorry, I was very scatterbrained, unorganized. I don't script these, so I apologize if things came off as strange. Did you like my little bending thing I did there? I was trying my best here. It's very early in the morning. It's like, what, 8? It's like 8 in the morning right now. I'm not very energetic right now. I haven't had breakfast, so doing that took a lot of wind out of me for some reason. If you guys ever want to see me rant live publicly at the end of October, I'll be at Youmacon. That's right, an anime convention in Detroit, Michigan at the end of October. Outside of that, I will also be uploading on my side channel, CROS Plays and CROS Side Thoughts. CROS Plays more so is a channel where I upload video gameplay, and the other one is me reading Reddit stories. With that being said, outside of the Patreon that I have for $1 a month, thank you guys so much for checking out my video, and I'm out. Peace. Wait, hold on. Somebody asked me to show my rings before. Hold on. These are my rings. Just wanted to show them off. If you're curious about my rings, just curious. I wear bangles and rings if you're curious about that. People were asking about this a few videos ago, so I thought I'd show them off. There's a little bird thing here. I'm trying to get this camera to focus here. There's a little bird thing right here. Yeah, here we go. There it goes. Hopefully you enjoy the showcase of the rings. Thank you guys so much. And that's actually all I got now. Bye.
I'm your Nick at night, be my Laurel, slow. Ooh, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. Ooh, I love the ride when you